Hello, friends. Welcome to .org, the podcast all about how nonprofits tell their stories. I'm your host, Matt Pearl. I was a broadcast journalist, a TV news reporter, locally and nationally for 20 years. Now I run Pearl Impact Media. I help nonprofits and purpose-driven businesses raise money, raise awareness, and distinguish themselves from the rest through meaningful, memorable, and affordable video storytelling. That's my mission, and an offshoot of that mission is this podcast. Each episode, I chat with a nonprofit leader with a defined, thoughtful, and successful approach to telling their organization's story. We are now on episode 3, and I am so excited about this conversation. I got the chance to get to know this guest late last year when I collaborated with her and her organization on an impact video. We hit it off quickly over a shared love of a few select storytelling projects, more on that in a little bit, and a similar outlook on embracing authenticity when telling your own story. That's going to be the topic of this conversation. She is my guest. She is Director of Community Engagement and Partnerships for Purpose-Built Schools Atlanta, Jeronica Harts. Welcome to .org.
Hi, Matt. Thank you for having me.
My pleasure to do it. And the first question is always the toughest, so we'll get it out of the way early. Just so we can get everyone up to speed, tell us about Purpose-Built Schools Atlanta in 30 seconds or less.
Oh, wow. So Purpose-Built Schools Atlanta, we're located in the historic South Atlanta area, and we operate Carver STEAM Academy, Price Middle School, and Slater Elementary. We are solely focused on being a pillar in our community where we are not only just educating our scholars, but we're actually focused on their families and embracing the community in which we are serving.
And follow-up question, talk about your role and what it means to be the Director of Community Engagement and Partnerships.
Oh, gosh, I love my job. And so in my capacity, what I'm afforded the opportunity to do is, number one, make connections that are community-based and also share the story about purpose-built schools. Mm-hmm. And although I've been here about 8, almost 9 months, just being in our hallways and talking to our teachers and then having opportunities to converse with our students and stepping outside of this building. If you go anywhere in the South Atlanta area, people know Carver, they know Price, and they also know Slater. But because our organization is still relatively new to our community, not everyone knows Purpose-Built Schools Atlanta yet. And so I've been tasked with the work of sharing our story and ensuring that awareness is there and our families know that, yes, we are here and we are partnering with Atlanta Public Schools, but your student is enrolled in a purpose-built school. And so because your student is enrolled in a purpose-built school, we're able to offer additional resources that aren't always offered in your traditional school setting. And so we have some amazing partnerships from CORE to Boys and Girls Club. We partner with Delta. Our students are flying airplanes, so we're doing some really cool stuff inside of our schools simply because of the power of the partnerships. We were just over at Barings Bike Club yesterday, and not only are our students over there and they're learning social emotional skills, those soft skills, but they're actually working with their hands. And it's a STEAM-based student-driven program, and it's in an actual bike shop. And so it's just really inspiring, the partners that we've been able to connect with. We walked in Barings and we actually saw some students that graduated from Carver STEAM 2 years ago, a few months ago. They were a senior, this past graduating season. And so it was really amazing to see that Barings is not only committed to supporting us with the kids that are enrolled with us, but even our students as they graduate. So it was just really awesome.
Yeah.
So that's my work.
Partnerships. Well, that sounds like great work. I can tell you're in the hallway now. You're in one of the hallways now.
I am. So if you hear an announcement, I'm in school.
Yeah, for
I'm
those of you
actually at
watching on
work.
the video, you can see she's got lockers behind her. Um, and I will tell you, so I worked with you back in December was when we shot your story. We'll talk a little bit more about that in a minute. But what's been
It was
interesting
amazing.
since then is as I have worked with other organizations and gotten to know other organizations, it is
Hmm.
amazing how often the name Purpose Built comes up. And not from me, from them, because they're either your partner or they are familiar with what you're doing and you're a touchstone for a lot of organizations, both in the educational space and outside of it in the
Hmm.
Atlanta area, which I think is just tremendous. And as you said, community engagement, those partnerships, that is so important to what makes you special. To go into a purpose-built school is to receive not just an educational experience, but support systems in a variety of ways. And I'm curious for you, how does storytelling, and we'll just call that the umbrella for social
Okay.
media, videos, and the
Okay.
interactions you have in person, there's storytelling there too. How does
Yes.
storytelling fit into that form of engagement with people?
When I focus on storytelling, it's important to me because we don't talk to people about like what they do. We talk to people about their experiences, right? And so what experience are you having with your child enrolled in our school? As a student, what is your experience like? People need to know what the experiences are like from our stakeholders so that they can truly understand the work that we do. We can make some pretty flyers and I can read from a script, but how amazing is it for a student to actually tell you what it's like to be enrolled in our school and a family to share with you what impact our organization and the teachers and the principals and all of the amazing folks that work inside of our schools have actually had on their family. So for me, storytelling is vital because it really unveils the true essence of your organization.
It's funny because often when nonprofits reach out to me, it's because they're looking for a video to help them fundraise. Your team wanted a video that did something else to define purpose built in a new
Right,
way for
right.
the families that you serve and the families who have a choice about where to send their kids for school.
Right. Exactly. And so we wanted our families and prospective families to be able to see, oh, wow, so this is happening in South Atlanta. Yes, it is. You can definitely school choice. I definitely promote school choice. But one of the most amazing things about graduating from your neighborhood school is the pride that comes with it. It's it's unmatched. The pride that comes from graduating from your neighborhood school, maybe where your grandma's house is, or where mom may still be there. My parents are still in the home where I graduated from my neighborhood high school. And I'm absolutely proud of it. I know they've had, some different things happening in the neighborhood, but it's still my school, and I'm very proud of it and the current programs that they have, just like on our campuses. Carver STEAM is an amazing school. Our kids are doing some fantastic work. Even if you look at the video actually that you did, Matt, you will see students in the video building an airplane. You'll see students in an actual audio visual technology in a studio actually recording their very own podcast or commercials. So our kids are doing some very, very fun things. We also have students through our partnerships where some of our students are graduating and they actually have their CNA certifications. So those are the type of stories that are happening inside of our school. And yes, we are a neighborhood school.
And I always tell people to, it's one thing when you're telling people about what you have and what you offer. It's a far different and I think more impactful and effective thing when you're able to show them that. And
Right.
in that video that we did, you're seeing, like you said, you're seeing kids work in aviation class.
And hearing them. And
And you're
so that
hearing
was
them,
the
right?
piece that I loved. So like Matt, I've worked in doing this work with community engagement and marketing, goodness, going on over 10 years. So I'm not going to date myself, but it's going over 10 years. But that was the first time that I ever worked with someone and they wanted to mic our kids. and they wanted to mic our teachers. Typically, it looks almost like this, but this is fine. This is a podcast, right? But
Right.
typically, someone is sitting in front of like a pretty bookcase and they're talking about the school, but you don't get to see it. The beautiful thing about the video that we partnered with you on was that, yes, you heard some people speaking, but you actually got to see it happening in action. You heard our students actually talking and conversing and having dialogue and discourse in the classroom with their actual teachers. You could even hear them asking each other questions.
Mm-hmm.
You heard, I know we had several of our family, we had a couple of family members, our caregivers were able to share their stories as well. And so being able to not only capture who we are, but families being able to, in perspective, families and caregivers being able to actually experience it through the way that our story was told was beautiful. And we love it. The first time I saw it, I actually cried.
Well, I
I
appreciate
did.
hearing that.
I was so proud. It was some heavy days, but it was a lot of fun. But the outcome and the result was unmatched.
Yeah. And there was so much that went into that video. Thank you, by the way, for saying all that. That's really kind of you. There was so much that went into that video. It's a longer video than what we typically do, right? It's 5 minutes long, which is long by Impact Video standards. But what I found interesting, and I'm curious as to your reaction on this, because I think it can be instructive for other nonprofits out there. So you all posted this on Instagram. You posted the 5-minute video, and then you posted the separate 1-minute clips that we also worked on that basically sprung out of all that footage. We did some separate clips.
I'm sorry, it was Kara.
That's okay. Specifically for social, right? And what I found really interesting that the one that got the most response, the most number of likes on Instagram, was that long 5-minute clip, which
because it didn't feel long.
No,
it didn't feel long.
What does that say to you about just people's appetite for that kind of content? Because for me, it's always something where I'm always very cautious when I talk with folks about, you can put this on social media, but I can put together a great video, but I'm not going to guarantee that it's going to get, dozens of likes or 100 likes. And you all actually saw that response in real time. And I'm curious what you make of that.
Well, number one, Matt, when you initially start the video, it's as if you're watching several mini videos because someone is speaking and then you're experiencing that person's basically you and that person, you're able to see basically what they're talking about in action. So when we are speaking about pre-K, you actually have an opportunity to see and feel almost like what a pre-K classroom looks like at purpose-built school. Once we're talking with our high school students and then it spans off and then you're able to actually see Chris there building a plane alongside his peers. You get to see Ian in the studio that he's talking so proudly about. And so that just it tells you that people want to actually see what's happening and not just be told what's happening. And so I believe that was the push and why we had that demand and so many views on that specific video, because you actually told a story and showed them what was happening.
She is Jeronica Harts. I am Matt Pearl. This is .org, the podcast about how nonprofits tell their stories. Let me take less than a minute to share how I tell stories. I was a journalist for many years. I traveled the world, covered the Olympics 3 times, and won national awards for video journalism, mostly for stories about the underreported issues facing our communities and the people and organizations offering solutions. Now I get to work directly with those people and organizations. At Pearl Impact Media, I provide meaningful, memorable video storytelling for nonprofits and purpose-driven businesses. Maybe you want to raise funds. Maybe you want to build your community. Maybe you want to showcase your services in ways only video can do. I'm based in Atlanta, but work with clients across the country, and I would love to work with you. Head to my website at pearlimpactmedia.com to schedule a free consultation. Back with Jeronica Harts of Purpose Built Schools Atlanta. So I mentioned this at the top of the interview. You and I really bonded that first day we met. And it was
We
because
did.
of a documentary that neither of us were a part of, but
No,
that we just feel speaks to the way storytelling can move people. It's called Love
absolutely.
Them First, Lessons from Lucy Lane Elementary School. It was
Yes.
produced by Care 11 TV in Minneapolis, St. Paul. It came out nearly a decade ago, but when it
Yes.
did, it gained national acclaim and won national awards for covering education in an immersive and I would say atypically authentic way. I'm curious,
Very.
I know I loved it and I know you loved it. I'm curious what you remember about that documentary and how it shaped the way you view storytelling now, where you're in this space and you're working with a great organization in education. How
Yes.
did that documentary shape the way you look at storytelling?
So, Kara Fatazi, our chief of staff, when we connected and she said, "Hey, Jeronica, we have a videographer. He's going to come in and he has a vision for what what it'll look like to tell our story." And I immediately thought of Lucy Laney.
Mm.
And when you entered our building and we connected, I had never met you, and we just started talking. I was like, oh my gosh, it's going to happen. So we actually will be able to not just do a video where people are going to talk about Purpose Built Schools Atlanta. They're actually going to be able to see what's happening behind the scenes because families don't often see that. And what I loved about Love Them First is that it showed not only the very positive and happy and spirited moments that happen in schools, but it also showed the work, the work. And our work in education, every day it's rewarding, but it's not easy work. There are often tears, and sometimes it depends on a grade level, and some students may have, some challenges. There are things that go on that are not always talked about, but Love Them First showed you the full picture of what educators experience every day. And despite the challenges, no matter what the zip code the school is located, no matter what behaviors a student may be exhibiting, at the core of the work that we do, we have to love them first. Love the students. As a leader, you love your teachers, your staff, the people that are in that building with you. Being in the community, you love your stakeholders, your community partners, and your neighbors and your alumni. You love them. This work, in order for us to truly, and this is my opinion, okay, we'll say Jeronica's opinion, you can't do this work without love. You can
Mm.
do it with strategy, but you can't do this work without love and joy and being able to inspire. And so at the core of all of that, I know when I was a school leader, my staff would tell you, the kids that I work with would tell you, I love them. And I still do. Even though I'm not there, I felt in order for us to get this work done, the team I actually worked with, when I met them, a part of our professional learning at the top of the year, we actually all watched the documentary, Love Them
Uh,
First. So this is not something that I just watched by myself. I shared it with my entire team. And I also shared it with the team when I started here, Purpose Built as well,
mm.
because it truly tells a story that the work that we're doing, it won't always be roses and flowers and sunshine, and a bunch of balloons, and it's always pretty. Sometimes it may get hard, but we can't lose sight and we can't move away from what is our core. What do we know at our core is that we love our kids and we love our community and we love the work.
You said something that I want to go back to because I think it's so important, which is this that when you tell a story and you're an organization, you're typically as an organization, you're thinking about your own story, the organization's story, right? Typically, when folks
Mhm.
hire me for videos, that's what they want to tell their story to fundraise,
Yes.
to raise awareness, all of those reasons, which are completely legitimate. And that's what impact videos are built for.
Hmm.
Something like this, though, a full length feature documentary, where these journalists had access to the school for a full school year, if I understood right.
Mm-hmm.
I think it speaks to the fact that even as an education nonprofit, you're not operating in a silo. You're operating in a world where there is a continual discussion and debate about the role of education and
Yes.
various ways in which education can be utilized, and what role local funding should play in it, what role federal funding should play in it. There are all these conversations about education,
Mm-hmm.
and you said something that I think is so interesting, which is that very rarely in that conversation do you ever get a real sense of what it's like to be an educator. And it takes a project like that, and it takes various projects like that to put that element into the conversation. That education
Absolutely.
isn't just something to be debated about, it's something to be experienced and to be understood in a meaningful way.
Yes. Yes. And it's very important. It's one of them. I put it at the top of the documentaries for me. I mean, like one of my other favorites is Waiting for Superman. Love that one because you got to actually see the whole process of going through with school choice and what that's like. But Love Them First is the latest one that I have most recently fell in love with because it's just so authentic. Authenticity is everything. People want to know the real story. They don't want to just be told a story.
Mm-hmm. I think
People
that,
don't want to be told about a school. They want to actually experience and see that school.
yeah. And that
Yeah.
applies to the full length documentaries, or in our case, a 5-minute impact video where, we certainly didn't get as gritty as they got and, dive as deep into a lot of the issues that
Right.
some children face as they did in that documentary. But, but as you said, I think even just getting behind the scenes and immersing viewers in a classroom or a subject matter, that's very helpful too. I do think it also leads to a deeper discussion about the ability to be authentic no matter what your organization. So in this case, the principal at this school gave two
Mm-hmm.
journalists
Mm-hmm.
unprecedented access, let them
Yes.
capture a variety of moments that were not always the most flattering, but were always the most real. And they
Yes.
trusted those journalists to tell a story that would be faithful and true.
Yes.
Contrast that with a lot of nonprofit videos I see. They're very bland, sterile, and and not with poor intentions by any means. Like the intentions are still, in the right,
Mm-hmm.
in the right way. But, those videos wind up stripping away all the authenticity. And then as a viewer, as someone who'd be interested, might want to be a student at a school like this or something, you just don't get a true picture of
No.
what that experience actually is. Truth is not always pretty, but it does connect with people.
Yeah, I often tell different organizations or partners, current partners, when I'm coming to visit, I'm not coming to have a conversation with the executive director. I'm not coming to have a conversation with the manager. I'm going to actually talk to our students that are actually experiencing your program. It's not about what you're telling me you do, it's what they can tell me they've experienced. And that's how I'm able to know and assess the value of that specific partnership.
Yeah. And you've worked in, Atlanta is not your first stop, not your first city in the educational
No,
ride. And
no.
you've had a distinguished career already. I'm curious for you, having worked in so many educational spaces in your career, what is the biggest thing related to storytelling that organizations in this space do right? And what's the biggest thing that they could be doing better?
Well, the thing that we do, and I would say just education as a whole, nonprofits, what we do right, we hire amazing people that have some charisma about them. They're fun. They can tell our story. But one of the areas of opportunities for us is to actually put the camera in front of the folks that you are serving,
Mm.
right? If you are a food bank, right? Have some conversations with some of the people that are coming in the food bank. If you are fundraising for I don't know, if you want to do like for music camps or something, then have conversations with the students that have been through your program. If you're a summer program and you provide experiences for students to maybe be on a college campus, then have some time for someone to come and not only see those students on the college campus where your program is, but actually go in and listen and see what's happening during the day. What does it look like when they're maybe on a field experience? Allow the public and potential donors and potential partners to actually see and experience what's happening with your organization.
That takes a lot of trust, right? You have to trust that, that they're going to get a version of your, they're going to get the experience that you want them to get, right? You have to trust in your product.
Yes.
I think if you're trusting, whether it's a videographer or a marketing agency, you have to trust that you can be authentic with them and that they're going to treat you right and produce something that's faithful to your vision. And
yes.
you, like you said, you have to trust your people. You have to trust that the people that you bring in are going to have that charisma, are going to be that dynamic. So it really does, and that's hard, I would imagine, for nonprofits, especially when you're thinking about, every dollar accounted for in the budget. And,
True.
Especially now, so many are facing specific challenges that are daunting, and, their survival is potentially up in the air. And it's very hard to then believe in that idea of trust and, put anything at risk. But that can have really, really great rewards. And I think what you said is kind of, it speaks to that, I would think.
It does. And, Matt, oftentimes marketing and this work is people want to have a very small budget there. It's a small line item. But I wonder if you think that that's supposed to be small and you shouldn't really invest in it, then are you really investing in your organization, right? Because if you're not telling your story and allowing somebody to really dig deep and really get down and really see the work that you're doing and tell it in a very beautiful way, then you're actually cheating yourself. And if you're not telling your story, then as they always say, somebody else is telling your story. So it's critical that nonprofits and businesses, that they invest the time and trust into someone to truly be able to tell their story and not just showcase their logo and maybe the vision and the value statements, right? No, we need to see it. Let them experience it. You'll see that line, those dollars go up. Funders want to see what's really happening behind the scenes. They don't want to just know what you put in that grant proposal and what you say on your website and what you said in that quick little video, with your CEO. No, they really want to know what's happening because they want to know what they're investing in. And that's what the power of storytelling does.
Jeronica, this half hour has flown, by the way. I have really, really enjoyed this, as I enjoy all of our conversations, so not a surprise there. I'm going to ask you that famous last question that all reporters love to ask. Is there anything we haven't talked about that you'd want to make sure you mentioned?
No, but if you are in the city of Atlanta and you are looking for an amazing school, especially in the South Atlanta area, then you definitely want to check out Purpose Built Schools. We operate Carver Steen High School. We have Price Middle School, Slater Elementary, which also offers an amazing pre-K program. So check us out. If you're in the South Atlanta area, choose Purpose.
And the website on that would be
purposebuiltschools.atlanta.org. It's quite long.
But all very nice.
Keep it short, PBSA.
That is Jeronica Harts, Director of Community Engagement and Partnerships for Purpose Built Schools Atlanta. And Jeronica, this has been wonderful. Thank you so much for your time.
Thank you for having me, Matt. I always enjoy our conversations.
And that is episode 3 of .org. If you found this helpful and want others to hear it too, a great rating or review wherever you get your podcasts goes a long way. Please take the time if you can. And feel free to check out my work at Pearl Impact Media. Video storytelling can be so beneficial for organizations. I would love to work with yours. Book a free consultation now at pearlimpactmedia.com. All right, friends, I am Matt Pearl. Thank you for listening to .org. We'll see you next time.